Hello and welcome back, MC1 Gamer here, bringing you a recap from the Holy Wars GT that took place in Yorkville, Illinois. This is the display board that I brought to the show. A little meager, the display boards that were there, the kinds that you'll also be seeing at Adepticon and some of the, just the kind of quality you see at these big shows, much better than what I brought. But I was struggling and racing to try and get my this army painted up, so that I could make a showing and I could, not look completely out of place, because I knew that I was going to be going up against some really quality hobbyists, and I was. I just wanted, before I even get into like what I did, how well I did, what kind of boards there were, what happened at the show, which by the way was great. It was a great show. Steve Herner puts on a fabulous show with his crew, and the hobbyists are top notch, but they're also really, really good people, really good attitudes, really good, just good for the hobby in general, good for Warhammer in general, and the kind of show you definitely want to go to. The only downside is that they really have a cap on these shows. They don't want to get crazy and big, or at least that's the impression I get, like an Adepticon or an LVO. It's much more intimate. So I count myself lucky that I was able to get in on this show and do it. I hope I can do it again. I was very much inspired by the fact that Tom and Vince from Warhammer Weekly went to Holy Havoc. We had talked about doing Holy Wars even before that, but of course, I wasn't able to do the Holy Havoc one. I didn't have a partner, and I wasn't able to get away. But I wanted to do Holy Wars, and it really was up my alley because it's the best combination, in my opinion, of a narrative feel. There's a story to the events, but there's all to the actual scenarios. But it's a very competitive event as well. A lot of people will bring some fluffy lists, but there's a lot of people that also bring real shit kicker tournament lists, net lists, and bring their A game. And a lot of these guys are guys that go to the big shows too. So you're going to see them at the LVOs and the Adepticons. And, they come to these, this particular event, apparently, this is like the second or third year that they're doing this cycle. The Holy Havoc is a team event, and Holy Wars is more of an individual. But and they do it for charitable purposes as well, which I really respect. I really respect that it's not just, hey, let's run a show. It's also because the proceeds and the donations and the stuff that you bring for raffles so that people can get stuff. A lot of the stuff that you purchase for like a reroll die or the raffle tickets, it goes to a good cause. I mean, and that is a fantastic thing. So it's not just about the game. It's also, there's a residual effect. It's not just about us, just showing off our wares and having a good time. There's somebody's actually going to, that is in a huge disadvantage, is going to benefit in some way. So I really admire Steve and his group for doing that, and all the people that support it. Now, for me, I'm just going to go into this really briefly, maybe not so briefly. I traveled a long way to go to this thing, and it really kind of broke my spirit. So just keep this in mind. I live in New Jersey, North New Jersey. I'm from the New York area, but I've lived all over the country. I've lived in a lot of different places throughout the country. I've done a lot of road trips, but it's been a long time, and I ran this one solo. I traveled all the way from North New Jersey, where I live in Madison, which is not too far from Morristown. If you know anything about New Jersey, you might know where that is. If not, let's just say it's about an hour out of New York City. And I drove all the way through the night, straight, without a stop, to Yorkville, Illinois, which is south of Chicago. And it took 12 and a half hours. That is a effing hike. And I kept myself in good spirits with some podcasts, with plenty of music, some really strange music. Getting through some certain countries as you drive through is a lot of, everything's religious and and Bible verses and whatnot. But then I also found out that they apparently use the same lists. You hear the same friggin' songs 20 times over the course of a span of time. So I'm glad I had the podcast to keep me company and keep me awake. But I showed up at this thing probably about 3 o'clock. After starting the night before, I showed up about 3 o'clock, and they were good enough to give me my hotel and allow me to check in early so I can get a few hours of sleep. But I showed up at 3 p.m. that time. I gained an hour too, which was awesome. But I was fried, and I don't know if I fully recovered at all. I was just so fried. So if anybody saw me, met me, I was not strung out. I'm not a drug addict. I was just. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, guys. I'm not ancient. I'm not old, but I'm not a kid. It's not like in college days when I was doing road trips like this and hitting the car and driving down to Tennessee or Florida or whatever, somewhere in the Midwest. I've done a bunch of that, visiting other colleges and people that I knew around the country. But either way, This, I don't think I could do this again. Going back was easier because I started out a little bit earlier. I didn't start out first at like 2 a.m., but it was tough. And it did have an impact on my overall demeanor and disposition. I tried to be as positive as possible and just try to be, friendly. And the people there were awesome. But anybody who was there, just realize I was absolutely friggin' fried because of this drive. Don't do this if you're not don't know what you're getting into. Go with somebody, take a rest, take a stop. I promise you, you'll have a better experience. So I think I would have had a better time if that was the case. But I had a great time, and I'm very happy I did it. So here's my board. Without further ado, let's get into this. Here's my board. Now I wanted to bring. This is not an a number one net list of any kind. This is my own, concoction of undead with a theme. I mean, I brought some stuff that I thought was fairly strong, like the Morngul, for instance. Didn't bring a two Morngul list. I wasn't about to do that, but I brought a Morngul because I needed some strength, because a lot of what I took was not exactly optimal. So and the way this was structured is you took 2,500 points. You had a sideboard that you could flip in and out stuff, but you needed to have a 2,000 point army at any point. So you're going to see that, I've kind of mixed and matched some things. But I have several units of zombies, which more often than not, I merged into one. And yes, that is a thing in match play. I was going to have 2 units of Blood Knights, which are the Bretonnian Grail Knight undead. They're all on nightmares. You'll see different pictures of them. All the tails are fiery, and all the hooves and manes are all fiery. The eyes are red. These are my own conversions. I can try to zoom in a little bit. Maybe we can get a little bit of a picture of them. But there's probably a better picture somewhere else here. But everything is heavily converted, and I would just try to get this stuff presentable as much as I could. So you might see some stuff that's lacking flock and whatnot. But these were, I wanted to bring more, 10. So I had 2 units of 5 I could bring in. Ultimately, I want to have 3 units of 5 each. But this unit was the only one I could get painted up to any measure of standard to bring to the event. So I only brought the 5. So I actually had a sideboard that was weaker and with less options than normal. That's okay. It wasn't about that. And again, I want to walk into this also saying that I had no illusions of doing well. I did pretty good. And I'll say that for the end. I had no illusions of doing well at all in this event. I just wanted to go and have a good event with some really good tables that these guys are known for. Really complex scenarios, which I'll go into in a little bit, because they're complex. These are, in my opinion, the toughest, most intricate, detailed scenarios, and the things where you have to really make hard choices than any other thing I've been at, even when I was doing competitive stuff going back, years ago. But in any case, the bottom line is, I wanted to bring something that, first of all, had good paint. Second of all, that had some interesting synergy, but more importantly, had a theme. So this is my army. My army is called the Legacy of Muslin, which is, if you don't know, Muslin is basically where they were back in 8th edition, all the way through the storyline there, all the way up until the end times. They were undead Bretonnians. There was the Red Duke and the Duchy of Muslin, which was bordered the Empire, and I guess also Bretonnia, but thousands and thousands of Black Knights, which were realm knights that were turned, failed questing knights, you name it. It was this whole story that a lot of people have emulated with their conversions, and I wanted to convert, and I'm still in the process of converting this army. It's been a 4-year project. When I wanted to get back into this after a long break, this is what I wanted to do. And now, finally, I'm getting paint on the table. With a lot of motivation from people like Vince, for instance, and other good painters out there. Finally getting stuff that's presentable and looks good with a whole vision that I've had. So keep that in mind, that this is not an optimal list. I have a way of playing, and I have an idea of how to play it that I think really harkens back to the whole idea of undead Bretonnians. But this is not going to be. I think I overachieved with this. I hit above my weight class here with how I performed in this event because of that. There were some really tough lists out there, and some really good players too, and really fun players. So I didn't get my board up to snuff, but I think I got most of my army up to snuff, and I did fairly well with the paint score as a result. But because I guess it was a lot of it was the converting and some okay paint jobs with a lot of watching and education from other people that are out there. But here's the 2-man unit that I mostly fielded either at 5 or as a solid block of 10 of Hex Wraiths. These are my failed questing knights. Some of Grail Knights are mixed in here too, but they're great weapon wielders back in 8th edition. So I use them as the questing knights because questing knights are mounted with great swords, and so they really work well as ghostly questing knights. But these are my Hex Wraiths. You can see I have a whole bunch of these converted men-at-arms zombies. My corpse cart here, not fully done, but mostly done. You can see I have the Morn I needed a monster. I need something with some strength, and it works with some of the synergies I have. There's a prophetess here on a nightmare. You can see the red flaming hooves and tail. And this, I'll get better pictures. This is just the far up picture, and you'll see some better stuff, some closer stuff. That's my prophet. She's the mounted necromancer. This over here is the old Archeon mounted figure that I turned into a abyssal terror. So that's my lord on an abyssal terror. Here's the old clowny face Nagash. This is the center statue within this graveyard, because of course, where are the Bretonnians now? Unless there's any surviving factions somewhere out there that survived the eons, moving from 8th edition into Age of Sigmar. Well, they're all serving Nagash because they all died, and that's the theme. Here's my general, who's a vampire lord mounted on a nightmare also. I'll go over some of the other stuff with him. Typically what I did is I gave this guy the cursed book, or I gave this one over here. This is the mounted White King with an infernal standard. So I have a fiery standard over here. It's not a very good picture. And again, it's a little far away, so I'm kind of zooming in. I often gave him the Sword of Unholy Power. And what he would do is he would summon out the Morngul 18 inches forward. So, and that would come into play in one of these missions where it worked either to my benefit or detriment. And if I didn't do that, because I deployed the Morngul to start, I gave typically the Vampire Lord on Abyssal Terror the Cursed Book, which means that he emitted a -1 to hit within a 3-inch radius. I have here my converted up the Mortis engine. You could see that there are, the ghosts are also Bretonnian knights. And then I have 2 units of these. I use them sometimes as either fell bats. These are my fell pegasi. But for this mission, because the wings are actually from the carrion, I use them as the carrion because I had specific use for the carrion. And sometimes I either use them in a 1 block of 3, or I took a full block of 6. And I'll go over some of the details there. So this is my graveyard. I'm probably going to be expanding this board and doing something more elaborate with it, where I wanted to have the underpart, the bottom tier being the underpart underneath the graveyard where all the zombies are, and then the upper part being the actual graveyard like this in the second tier. So I'm going to be doing some more elaborate in future events, like for Adepticon, if I can do that, if I can actually get it done. Okay, so moving on. Okay, I just want to show some pictures of some great tables, because these are unbelievable work. I love this army because I like the dwarves. This is a throwback army from 8th edition that this gentleman who was hysterical, he had a beer cooler underneath his table, and he knew how to use it. And he put all his squares into these round MDF cuts. Great idea. Way to do double duty if you're into either continuing to play 8th edition or if you play 9th. But a nice army, and I just love that. I love that he had these Griff Hounds were actually these little bulldogs. It was awesome. Another beautiful table. This is a Nurgle army. You can see Papa Nurgle over there, and Glockin. Just look at these boards, though. These boards are just high quality boards. These floating islands, really synergistic. The quality of the paint, the quality of the converting, just really high end. I'm going to get into the games in a second, but I just wanted to show some of this stuff. Here's this. This board is a Khornite board. Also great, and again, just look at the consistency throughout all of the basing as well as the board. Just excellent job. This, I believe, this is a Beastman board. So you got Minotaurs. Just again, unbelievable job, and I love the fire and smoke coming out of the half destroyed. I think that's a chapel. Yeah, it might be a chapel. Let's see. This is one of the boards I didn't get to play on, and it scared me. It scared a lot of people because these are all floating islands and all those foam bridges. I think that Steve Herner actually said he put like a 5-pound weight on one of them to prove that nothing was going to fall. But that's not what concerned me. What concerned me was not that they would break. What concerned me was that if you bump the table, shit's going to fall off to the side. And I finished a lot of my army literally the day before this event and just sealed it up with some sealed coatings. And you don't want to break anything. I actually, as it is stood, I broke 2 lances on 2 of my Blood Knights, which was, again, a little bit soul crushing as a result. But this was a very cool board that I didn't get a chance to play on. Hopefully I will in the future. It's just the kind of board that exhibits just inspires all kinds of hobby thoughts and the idea of what Age of Sigmar can do that you couldn't do in other types of other previous editions of Warhammer. Another one here. This is a, let's see, I think this, I forget exactly what this is. Oh yeah, this is a Fire Slayer board with mixed in stuff from not Fire Slayer. This is Order. So this got Fire Slayers, it looks like, as well as Sylvaneth and Wood Elves. So nice mix of various different different. I think this is a Forest Dragon. Yep, with the sisters on the back. Awesome job. Just really works. This is, if everybody doesn't know Kevin here, he made his 100 games of Sylvaneth. Not Sylvaneth, excuse me, Fire Slayers, pure Fire Slayers at the old non-revised points. And I think this was game 97. I played against him on 98. I don't know if I have pictures of that. I will see. If I do, I'll show them. He played on this board. This is an Order board with this huge plume of Oak of Ages that's sitting here. And he played against Tom, and you can see, guess who won on this one? So yeah, very impressive army and just, you know, really dedication. I mean, he made it to his 100 points, 100 games rather, for Fire Slayers. He's reporting back to GW on you know how he feels about them, because he's the foremost authority. I guess I should have advertised how many undead games I played because maybe I'd be the undead guy, because I think I might have hit 100 before AOS came out, but I think I hit 100 games with just undead probably in the first 6 months, maybe in the first 4. Because I'm insane in terms of how many games I play, in terms not even just demos, just regular games. But I'm very impressed with his dedication with this army, because it's a pretty fairly new army. You know, it's been around a little bit, but still, he's got his 100 games in, and you know, I'm just very impressed with the army. And I played against it, and as much as I knew about it and I did review stuff, it's always different when you play against it. This is the first time I actually played against Fire Slayers, and I definitely feel that the point reduction makes them a huge contender, given how much is on the table. Although they still need some more diversity in their units. So we'll go over that maybe in another video. But again, sad face Tom there, because he lost this game to the repointed Fire Slayers. Another board here. Oh, I played against this guy twice. This is Adam. Adam has a Wood Elf / Sylvaneth list. It's much more Wood Elf than Sylvaneth, but great board, unbelievable conversions. We're going to see that in a little bit when we get to the table, because we played a practice game, which I won't be showing the pictures here, but I'll do it on another video, and then we actually played the game. This is just another very nice board with really well painted, just standard ogres. I played against this one in, I think, the final game, this lava board. This is Domus. Beautiful kind of World of Warcraft, you know, themed Ironjawz army. All this lava painting, you know, all the cracks and on the armor, glowing lava-wise. I was really impressed with this one. This one I really liked. This had a special place in my heart, because this was a undead army that used all kinds of elements from different armies, specifically Ironjawz. Here you can see that's a Terrorgeist, which is a Maw Crusher, undead Maw Crusher Terrorgeist with a Ghoul King on top, which is the guy that would be on the Ghoul King. I mean, would be on the Maw Crusher. Great idea. It just shows that, you know, there's people out there who are just as insane as me, if not more, when it comes to converting and going the extra mile. Okay, let's talk about this particular board. This is game 1. So game 1 I played against, let's see if I can go ahead and pull his name up. Let's see. Hold on. Let's we'll go ahead and do it like this. Okay, this is against Kevin Fleming. We were on board 12, and I'll go over and talk a little bit about what that is. So Kevin, he and I had a great game. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that picture back up. No, that's not it. It's already starting to fall apart, the plan. Okay, let's see if I got it here, and we'll get rid of that. All right, we'll go back this way. All right, so this was on table 12, and table 12 was called a tangled, not a tangled wood, but it's I think it was a layer of Vlad or something along. It was kind of an undeadish board, but it didn't have any really benefits for specifically for undead, because it worked for both people's favors. So it was a diagonal board that you actually zipped across here like that. So you actually had it divided up in an angle, and you had to be 12 inches away from the enemy deployment zone, because it'll kind of cut you off way before the corner. There's a lot more board here. It's just the angle that you're seeing it at. And so the dividing line is right across this middle part. Now this over here in the center, if you can see, I don't know if you can see my pointer. I'll try to move it a little bit slower. This is the Temple of Vlad, and in order to get and occupy the temple, there's a lot of buildings you can garrison in these games. and had special rules if you did garrison them or if you were in proximity to them. But they covered the entire footprint of that structure. So if you garrisoned it, it kind of expanded where you were, any effects you had from like that particular terrain structure. So it was this entire block here that you could do stuff with, and you could do things like sacrifice holy wounds on your holy wounds being unsavable wounds. So like mortal wounds, but no special saves will save against them. There's nothing that will stop them, because otherwise people would have layered defenses like undead or chaos and avoid them, which is what happened at Holy Havoc. And feedback made them add this special thing in here so that they still came into play no matter what your army was. But it worked, because in combat with spells and all that other stuff, any of your special saves that were against mortal wounds worked. But against the holy wounds from the terrain and the scenarios, you didn't have any defenses. But they weren't crippling, because they would be like a die 3 wounds on one of your units. And however many wounds you got, you scored. And if you scored higher than your opponent, then you got that scenario objective for the table. And there was always a primary objective. So in this case, you wanted to inflict as many wounds as possible from being in this tower onto either your opponent or onto your units. And depending on what happened, and this is different for each board, it might provide you with some benefits. So let's say you took die 3 mortal wounds, but maybe that unit's now immune to battle shock. So that's the trade-off. Now, if you took a unit that could regenerate, like I did a bunch of my units, then you took the wounds, but you risked losing models. But then if they came back, then it was all to your benefit. Wonderful. In this case, it could do one of two things. It could either hurt you or heal you. You picked one of your units, and you could either hurt your opponent or you could heal yourself. If you healed yourself, you didn't get the benefit. You didn't get any points. You didn't accrue any points for the game for winning the objective. If you impacted your opponent, however, with the holy wounds, then you started scoring. If you scored the highest, you got 7 points for the main objective. And then there was a secondary objective, which were these Grail tokens. You can see these little Grail tokens here. There are 3 of them on each board, and they're all in different places and have different aspects of how you can achieve them. And if you could get the most points from that, then you got 6 points. So that was the secondary objective. So you could try to achieve the primary objective. You may not have been able to get the secondary one, but it'll also be a situation where maybe you got totally locked out of the primary, but you could own the secondary, so you got 1 point less. Then there was a secret mission, and I'm going to go over that real quick before the final one, which is the secret mission. Is you have 5 different scenarios, different choices that you can make, and you can't use the same one for each game. So once you pick one, it's done, and it could be kill the highest point monster or hero on the table, cause a unit to run from battle shock, do something with your hero. You had to pick the different ones. So in this one, I forget what I did. I'll probably remember shortly. But in any case, just expanding on this center island here, you have this little Garden of Moor. If you're sitting in the Garden of Moor, or if you're within 3 inches of the Garden of Moor, you heal a wound on that unit, and it actually can bring back one wound models, not multi-wound models, that have died. So if you had a unit of 10 and you lost 9 and you lost 1, you would get 1 back as long as they were all 1 wound. Now, this didn't help my opponent for the returning. It did help me if I had something close by, because I had a bunch of stuff like my zombies that were only 1 wound. Either way, this is our setup. He has his Maw Crusher. He has some units of Ard Boys, some Brutes. He has his Weird Knob. He has a Chanter in here. He has a Mega Boss, and he has the big giant pigs. And I lined up on here, as you can see, and I made my actual full line here to kind of stop him, or at least blunt whatever charges or impacts he had with my zombies, which was kind of what I did most of the time. And I really try to take some of the stuff that I did with my army. There's a theme that you're going to see, which is, my 1-2 punch with my Hex Wraiths. Soup them up, get them into combat, give them the extra save, give them the extra attacks, take some losses, retreat out, and incur mortal wounds on my foe. Because they can do that if they fly over you, but do that because they're fast movers. And I had the Lord and Abyssal Terror with the double move. Get them out of dodge, retreating. They could still do those mortal wounds, and then do a follow-up charge with my Blood Knights, who were screened, and now they were able to go, and they do their best damage on the charge. They don't do as much damage otherwise. And then rinse and repeat if possible, if there were enough time and in the games to finish them. I just wanted to get a drink there. All right, so that's kind of the way I did it. Now, I'm sure that's nothing completely new, but this is something that I've done. I'm the only one that I know that's done it. Or if people have done it, I mean, I put that out first. I was doing that all through 8th edition with the Hex Wraiths. But this is kind of the signature thing for this army, and I'm kind of known for it when I throw this army out. But I do it with the different types of tools in place. In this case, the Vampire Lord with the double move is a very effective way of doing it. And I have other things that I put into place to kind of make that work. But it's a very hard thing to do, and it's extremely costly. Just so you know, 5 hex rates, you're not going to get as many mortal wounds like in 8th edition. You could do a lot more with it. They were much more effective hex rates. In Age of Sigmar, they're highly costed, and you don't get a lot for what you do. The best thing you get really is they're a little bit more survivable. They've got a nice unrendable save, but the mortal wounds that they do when they fly over, which is their signature move, or fly through, it's on a 6 only. And if you only have 5 guys, what are you going to, maybe you get 1. I rolled one time when I did this, I rolled all 10 dice. I had 10 of them and not 1 6. It's going to happen. It could happen in droves. It could happen and you bust. It's a lot of points to get this really cool ability that doesn't happen very much. So, you know, it's a risk. In any case, I try to pull it off because it just really works. It works. It's very fluffy. It's very undead Bretonnian. In any case, here's deployment. Yeah, here's his. All these forests were considered to be deadly. So if you landed on or charged or moved through, you on a 1 you lost your models. So you lost the model. So that could be pretty scary, unless you're a monster or a hero, which is a different story. So in that case, you ignore it. So here's our lineups and a little bit better pictures of them, of the models and the paint jobs, and we're off. I get first turn, or I think he allowed me to get first turn because I might have gotten first turn because he wanted to try and get the double turn, which I think was a bit of a mistake on his part because it worked in my favor. I was able to do what you're going to see me do in a second. But I go ahead and I soup up there are only 5 of these hex wraiths, and you get a better picture of some of the painting. You get a better picture here of the Infernal Standard. I throw up the extra attacks, which I think is the command ability. Everything on the profile gets +1 attack, so it's the mount as well as the guys up top. And then I throw up a Mystic Shield. And then I also use the spell Hellish Vigor to double their move. So now I'm moving at like, what, 24, 28, something like that in the move, and then I get a charge. So I think my charge range was anywhere from, I don't know, 25 to 30, which is good. Which is really good. All right, so I throw that out there and I soup those guys up, and then I start moving. I combine my zombies so I can try to get this Grail token on this side, and then on the other, I move up the Mortis Engine up here. I'm kind of faking out here. I position my Grail Knights here off to the left. And you can see the Prophetess Necromancer is over here, just in case I need to go and throw some arcane bolts at the Maw Crusher coming this direction. This is also a ghost fence here. So if I'm defending the ghost fence, I think I get +1 attack. Plus, there's various different rules that come into play with the Grail tokens. These little things right there. All right, and there's another one. There's 3 of them. There's 1 in the middle of the board and 1 on each of your sides. And they could be all different things. They could be -1 to your rend, +1 to your rend. You know, it could be a hit on your bravery, an addition on your bravery. It's random roll each game. Once you impact 1, you get within range of 1, you claim it. It could be a detriment or it could be a bonus. Plus, this is a Grail. This is a chapel over here. First, this is a chapel. In any case, this unit turned out because of all the added effects to get +1 rend, okay, which was huge for zombies. 2 attacks each. So I'm getting 1 attack for each of these guys. I have 40 of them, I think, here. They're at 3 up, 3 up. I think I had my for this one I had my corpse cart, so they were at 2 to hit, 3 to wound, 2 attacks each, and -1 rend. So just sick in terms of the souping power, just because of some of the status effects that occurred. And these are things that impacted every game and could impact to your benefit or disadvantage, depending on what combinations they came out and where you were. So your opponents can get some similar stuff too, depending on if they were near various different types of terrain features. The only thing I would say in the future to try and balance some of that out is maybe Steve might consider only allowing you to take the benefit of 1 status effect at any given time. Maybe allow the player choice. Just because I was able to get 2 status effects here that were killer, that were really killer, that made this 40-man unit of zombies absolutely insane. Way stronger than they should have been. In any case, moving on, I moved the Morgul over here to kind of again threaten if he came in with the Maw Crusher, because the Maw Crusher will crush everything I have, and I occupy. I don't take pictures everywhere here. You can see that I have here my general. that I put in here. If you get to the stairs, you occupy. This is the only place where you can actually occupy or attack the guy occupying, garrisoning the center structure. And you'll see this in other games as well. I get in there on basically on my first turn because you're so close. Anybody could do it, but the stairs were on my side, which may be why he didn't want to. It didn't help him to take first turn. He couldn't get in there first as quickly as he wanted to. And then I blocked it with my mortis engine, so nobody could get to the stairs. At least on his side of the table, he'd have to get to me on my side where he can maybe touch the stairs in order to try and attack the Lord garrisoning the building. So I blocked that out. He's gonna have to blow that up now. And I'm kind of blocking him from getting around with a lot of this other stuff here. So now I'm able to go and do the heal or whatever, and I roll the heal. Well, nothing's damaged, so I don't get the heal, and I don't get any benefits, so I'm not scoring any points with that. So then we move over here, and it's his turn. And again, I missed a lot of pictures, so I'm going to try and synopsize. What happens? He goes ahead and he casts Foot of Gork, and he foots a Gork. You can still cast spells at the guy in the tower. You can still shoot the guy in the tower. If the line of sight, you can get line of sight. So you wouldn't be able to like shoot if you had units like say at this base here because you couldn't see up this rock. But if you were over here, say for instance, you could shoot at the guy in the tower. Well, he had his weird knob sitting back on the upper left, upper right here. There was a forest. So he foot a Gork, and I think what he did was he threw up one of those platforms. What are they called? The vortex, and that doubled or whatever his range. And he foot a Gorked me, and he got pluses because he had guys in proximity. And I don't know if I was able to even get in range of perhaps even unbinding it. I mean, if I did, I failed. So he foots a Gork me. I fail my saving throw. He rolls it again, foots a Gork me again. I fail my mortal wound save again, foots a Gork me again. It worked a third time. Even my save from proximity with the Infernal Banner, which gives you a 6-up if you're within 10 inches of the White King, failed. And what happens? I lose my general first turn. So yeah, I got into the subjective. I move everything where I wanted to move it. I mean, I got a great perimeter, and I lose my general, and I didn't even score. I had to roll. I rolled a 1 to 3, 4 to 6. I need to roll a 1 to 3 to be able to do damage to get scoring points. And the 4 to 6, I didn't even get a chance to heal. It doesn't give you any points, but I had nothing damaged. So I'm already in a bad shape. First blood goes to my opponent's Iron Jaws. He goes and he moves up. He's got I don't think he wanted to go after my zombies, and probably was a good idea not to because they were souped up so much. All the bonuses that they got really put into play whether or not he wanted to risk anything going after him, because it would have been, he probably would have gotten about 20, 30, or 40 attacks even, depending on how many of those zombies got close, because they were getting 2 attacks each. They probably could have blended through that Maw Crusher. That's entirely possible, because I would have taken casualties on the tail end in the back, and all the guys next to him would have just, wrecked face, which is scary for zombies. Again, 2 attacks each, let's say maybe 40 attacks. They only do 1 wound, but now they get a rend. They never get a rend. Those guys die in droves, but you put on enough buffs on them. Oh, and here's the other thing. I got to go and fold them in twice. I could pick them twice, not at the same time immediately, but twice in the same combat phase to attack, because I had Van Hale's Dance for my Necromancer. So yeah, they were a scary looking unit. All right, so he starts moving, I guess, the Maw Crusher the other direction. He wants to try and come around the other way. And he moves up to kind of take on my Hex Wraiths, who are occupying this Garden of Moor, which is considered terrain and considered cover. So I occupied it with them. So now these guys are sitting on a 2-up because I've got a Mystic Shield on them. They're in cover and they're unrendable, which is awesome. And they're double attacks and the double attacks. So I wasn't able to do a charge with them, but I got him in there. Okay, so he moves up, and I had flown my Carrion. My Carrion are flying high. So that's the special ability with the Carrion. They do not impact the game until they land, and once they land, they are attackable. They can be hurt. They can charge. But until then, you can move through them. Now you can't displace them as models. You can't pick them up and remove them and put your models down. But all the 3-inch rules don't apply, and you don't have to worry about anybody who wants to move. You move through as if they're not there. You just can't overlap bases. But in any case, he moves his pigs out to the side here, and he charges with everything that can get in range onto my Hex Wraiths and just about bounces off. Tons. I mean, when I say tons of attacks, these guys have lots of attacks. They can get like 4 attacks. These brutes, the Ard boys are dishing out with some great weapons. he was just bouncing off of them. I think I lost maybe one. I think I lost one, and they don't regenerate, and I only have 5 of them. So I knew I was going to lose them, but I was like, you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that trade. I'll lose this entire unit to blunt off what he's got while I'm racking up points. And that's one of the things about Holy Wars and the level of different types of things where you can get scoring. You can sacrifice units, even high-priced units. If you can do that and put yourself in a position to rack up points, it doesn't matter if you get tabled. It doesn't matter if you lose everything. But in doing the loss, in incurring the losses onto your units, putting them in a place to slow down opponents, absorb damage, or even sacrificing them outright, where you don't even get anything back. But as long as you can put yourself in a position to score the points based on the scenarios, you're winning the game. That's what's important. So, and you have a secret mission too on something that your opponent doesn't know that you can achieve. And there you go. So he charges in there and he kind of bounces off a little bit. He maneuvers around here to kind of come up behind me with his pigs, and then he fails his charge with his pigs. This is his charge failed reaction. Yes, a big Newman. He wanted to get these guys in here on my zombies and try and sandwich me, and it would have been fine, but he failed. I think that this picture doesn't exhibit the fact that they were sitting when they moved in. I think it was a 3 and he rolled 2 1s. I don't remember. So there you go. So yeah, this is a situation where we're going to the follow-up turn because I think he got back-to-back. So that's what we're talking about here. And he eventually wipes this unit out of hex wraiths. And I don't mind that. That was fine. Because look, I killed off a few of his guys. I put a couple wounds on him. But again, that unit absorbed tons of attacks. I don't know if I had anything else in my army that could have done it. Not even the Mourngul stacked with my Lord would probably have done it because there were so many attacks. And these guys get bonuses to hit, so it kind of mitigates that. But the fact that these guys were on 2-ups, unrendable, was amazing. And it slowed these guys down from blending through the rest of my army. And that was key. I think I even healed back 1 wound. No, I didn't. No, not on this unit. Okay. So now when it comes to my turn, well, I don't have my hex wraiths anymore. They're gone. So I have my blood knights, and I want to kind of follow up with the blood knights. So I throw the extra attack on them, and I throw the double move on them. I roll for my lord, not my lord, my vampire lord on an abyssal terror took the place of the lord that died turn 1, my general, and he goes and uses the special ability from the Vlad's Tower. Finally, I roll it, and I get some wounds, I believe, on his weird knob. And his weird knob was on this tower here. So that was important. And in addition to that, I think either a previous turn or even this turn, I was able to get a arcane bolt. It might have been the previous turn where I had kind of hurt him already, and I got 3 wounds on him with the arcane bolt. And I think he has 6 wounds total. And then when I used the Vlad's tower, I got another 3 wounds, and I was able to kill him off of this vortex, which was huge because otherwise that foot of Gork was just going to constantly be smashing on me, double range too. So that was big. So I landed my carrion, and I throw them down here to go charge his War Chanter because I need to start taking away some of his synergies. And I move in the Blood Knights to replace the Hex Wraiths, which is exactly what my strategy was. Although in most cases, the Hex Wraiths didn't all die to a man. They kind of retreated out and dished off a couple mortal wounds and then put themselves in a position in a future turn to kind of charge back in and sandwich. I've played a lot of games where I've sandwiched my Hex Wraiths on one side with the Blood Knights on the other, because the Blood Knights will then lock these guys up. And the Blood Knights are very effective on the charge, but after the charge, they're not. They don't do the extra wounds. And they can be pretty crunchy. Once you get some rends on them, they can be very tough they're not very survivable. So what happens is that the nice thing about them is even though they have 3 wounds each, they don't have the greatest armor once you get even 1 rend. Their 3 goes to a 5. And if it's rend 2, it's a 6. But they have 3 wounds. The big thing is that they can return an entire model. A lot of people who complain about them being cheesy have not played them. They've played against them probably in the best possible scenario that benefits the undead player. But the truth is if you can even get 1 rend on them, they're totally killable. And then once you can chew through a few of those models, they're only getting 1 back. So if you can get 2 or 3 models down, that unit go very fast. They will absorb some punishment, and then after that, they're not doing any more damage. It's all about the charge. So I go in, I have the extra attacks and the charge, so I'm able to dish some damage. And I move in the Mourngul to try and incur a -1, but he's got like a +2 here, so the -1 doesn't even help. It just makes it a little bit less good. And then I put in my my mortise engine, because I want to survive with this mortise engine in order to do the proper damage, which is from their explosion, which I guess I wasn't in range to do that the previous turn. I might have already exploded it. They could do once per game. They do a big pop, which does die 3 healing on undead, on anything with the death keyword, but that does a die 3 mortal wounds to everybody within a 4 die 6 range, which maybe I think that's what actually helped kill the Weird Knob, because it was it was like an 18-inch or 20-inch range that I got. So that coupled with maybe an Arcane Bolt, that's probably what killed off that Weird Knob. But I did a bunch of, you can see that these guys have been thinned out a little bit. So there's a couple guys missing from the Ard Boys. I think I've done already, maybe I brought down his Mega Boss down to perhaps 1 wound, 2 wounds. So all these extra things that I've been doing with the attacks now, 2 units are really starting to whittle down some of his real tough stuff. But they have so many wounds, these guys, that it's, and good saves too. It's really hard to do that. I'm sacrificing stuff in order to do it, but I'm gaining points now. So I move the zombies out here to hold this fence, but he is just not interested in engaging them. I think he should have taken the chance to try and get me off this fence and try to get that. So I killed his Mega Boss with the charge, managed to drop him after the 2 turns, and lost another knight. So now I'm starting to lose knights. I think I'm down to 3 knights. Yeah, so I lost here. There's 4 knights left here. Then I lose 1, but I gain 1 back later because again, so now I think I stayed around 4 until the end of the game. I charge his Weird Knob with my Carrion. 6 Carrion can do some decent damage, but they're not great. I think I have 4 up, no rend, 1 damage. The turn comes back. I grow back a knight. Yeah, so I have 5 knights here. So I'm outlasting him. I've also got the Morngull that's helping me a little bit, reduce some of his damage. I think I moved the White King into the Vlad's Tower after I took away the my Vampire Lord on Abyssal Terror, because I need to get some more killing power and kind of hold him off so he doesn't try to take the tower away. So yeah, there's the the Vampire Lord and the Abyssal Terror. And I managed to kill off the Weird Knob because I think I got back-to-back on this turn. So again, we're moving further through. With all the damage that I was able to do between my charge with my Vampire Lord and Abyssal Terror, between the Morngull and the Blood Knights, this is what's left of his Iron Jaws, which was unbelievable. I just never expected that. I've gone up against Iron Jaws several times, and this just doesn't happen very often. Of course, he's arrayed against the best stuff I have, and the best possible situation occurred in my favor. I got my charges when I wanted to. I had all my buffs where I wanted to. I dictated where the fight was happening, all on my terms in the best possible situations. And if that's going to happen, I don't think there's any unit in the game or any series of units in the game that's going to be able to survive against that. Because otherwise, he should have walked right through me and blended the shit out of me, and he didn't. So I got lucky with that in some regard, and I managed to capitalize on the terrain and the scenario features in my favor. Otherwise, I just don't think I would have been able to take this game. So he finally moves in with his R boys and decides to kind of pressure my zombies, who are doing great. they're doing great, just holding the Grail tokens the 2 Grail tokens, the one in the middle and the one on my side. This is the one that's on his side. He doesn't have enough guys here, so I want to try and take that, because if I can own even his Grail token, then I'm getting more points than him. I racked up, I think, 4 or 5 points. I forget, maybe even just 3, but he has none. And he just didn't have enough guys even around this. Maybe he got 1. I'm not sure. But if I can get that, I get the secondary objective, and that means I get 13 out of like a potential 20 points, and that'll put me in a great position in the game. So he manages to get the pigs in here, the pigs have just been out of, just not been able to. They failed that charge, so it kind of puts him out of the contention. He swarms over this zombie, and starts doing some damage. He gets this charge in here and starts removing some of my zombies. They got a 5-up save. They're not getting anything else, and if they're within range, I think they were within range of the White King with the Infernal Standard. He gets they get a 6-up, so it's a 5-up and a 6-up. They have no regular save, and there's no rending. It's not really a save. It's kind of just to ignore wounds or ignore death. So I've saved some of those, but I lose guys. So it's a trade-off. But then I get die 6 back a turn, and I have 40 of them. So they get a little worse as they go down in numbers, which is okay. I mean, I could live with that. That's fine. But I'm getting double attacks, and I'm getting rend, so I'm doing damage. He goes and charges my Carrion. I don't know if he flubbed the attacks. I think I lost like 2 Carrion. I blend through 2 of these pigs with like 15 zombies, basically getting 30 attacks or 20 attacks Again, -1 rend, and then another pile in, or not another pile in activation. They're not piling in any further because they were wherever they were touching these guys. And then the same thing over here. I managed to go and drop a bunch of those guys, and whatever remnants he had here, I started swarming with the rest of my my Blood Knights, which are recovering. The pigs go. I think the next turn, almost all of the rest of his Ardboys here start going. And you know, again, I'm just not. He's losing guys faster than I am. He kills off again all but 2 of these carrion, but he doesn't have any points that he's able to gain here because he doesn't have the bodies. So this is how the game ends. I've owned the center. I've controlled Vlad. I managed to rack up tons of points with the power of Vlad. I controlled the graveyard, even though he was able to get some benefits from the graveyard as well. And I managed to use my zombies, which took a lot of wounds. I lost as much at one time as much as half my zombies. You can see that there's maybe about 20 that are left here, but did a tremendous amount of damage because they were just supercharged. They weren't regular zombies. They were like 28 days later zombies. So it really worked to my favor. Everything worked in this game in my favor, and unfortunately didn't work for my opponent. He was a really good sport, nice guy, nice army, and it worked out. It really worked out for me. So I maxed out 20 points. And all you need to do is get the most points out of than your opponent for each of these categories, and you get the points. So I got, it's not a whole lot of points here. I got 4 points from the Vlad objective, the tower objective, and 3 points from the Grail tokens, and that afforded me the ability to score maximum, which I think was, here we go. So I got 7, 6, 4 for your secret mission, and then 3 for more units that survive from your opponent. It's not how much you start with; it's how much that were alive. So that you deployed. So you deployed 14, units, and 14, 10 of them were there at the end, and your opponent only had 7, no matter how much he started with. He could have started with 7 if he had 7. If you had more, you survived. You got those 3 extra points. So I started out with 20 points, and I was at the top of the leaderboard for round 1. Really great start, but a little bit of a concern, because if you start off at the top tier after the first game in any tournament, guess what you're facing? In game 2, the rest of the top tier guys, usually very good players and people who have good lists. This was not an optimal list, but I managed to overachieve with it and utilize the scenario to my benefit. I got lucky with some rolls too, but it worked out real well. So I'm going to talk about the rest of the games in another video and show you some other stuff that went on throughout the event and talk about how it overall turned out. But this has been going on long enough. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to make any comments. Please try to be constructive. And, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day, everybody.